I'm hearing that new update is.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Public Works Finance Committee meeting for September 25th of 2017. Walter Steed is on my right, and Gina Teruscio on my left, and Gary Riedner in attendance representing the city staff. First item on today's agenda is the approval of the Public Works Finance Committee September 11th minutes. I personally didn't see anything wrong with them.
I did not either.
You're good.
I guess we'll unanimously approve the previous minutes. Item number 2 is the Vandaltown Block Party request for beer and wine garden and sidewalk cafe expansion. This is something we've seen before but got canceled because of poor air quality, I'm thinking, and moving it up.
That covers the bases there. Well, this is the annual Welcome Back to Students event that we host with the Chamber of Commerce and the University of Idaho, and many local businesses is what it's turned into. The event was originally held or anticipated to be held on September 8th, but that was the worst week of the poor air quality that we experienced due to wildfires in our area. We did postpone it from that September 8th, looking to host it on October 13th. And are just hoping for some dry weather now. So would like to make propose a new resolution replacing the previous resolution for the extension of sidewalk cafes and for the beer and wine gardens within the street closure area on Main Street.
And go ahead, Walter.
Nothing other than a change of date?
Nothing's changed except the date.
I can see anything that was different about the request other than the date change, so I think we can move this ahead, put it on a consent agenda for Monday's meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Do you want that on publicize it?
Oh, I suppose we could.
No real reason to. It's already been done.
All
we're doing is changing the date.
Thank you, Rod, for the suggestion there. Item number 3 on today's agenda is a resolution consenting to the Pullman-Moscow Airport property acquisition and transfer. And Gary and I see Tony Beans in attendance to help us get through the details on that.
Thank you. Tony could come up. What you have before you is a resolution which is presented to you. As you saw in the paper, the Pullman-Moscow Regional Airport has been with the FAA negotiating for the purchase of property for the runway realignment project from the Washington State University Board of Regents. It's been going on for some time. Our agreement with the City of Pullman, City of Moscow, and City of Pullman are both co-sponsors on the FAA project and co-sponsors of the airport. The purchase of property or the sale of property under our intergovernmental agreement with the City of Pullman for the operation of the airport requires the unanimous consent of the partners. So tomorrow night, I believe, the City of Pullman will be considering the resolution for the purchase of the property under our agreement. Pullman is both the fiscal agent for the airport as well as the acting agent for the purchase of property. Property purchased for the airport will be held in the name of the City of Pullman. As you know, our agreement with the City of Pullman for operation of the airport does allow for the City of Moscow to have an interest in the property, a 50% interest at its option. We've chosen, or at least have not chosen to exercise that option at this point. So what you're being asked today is your consent of this resolution, which would allow the purchase of the property to move forward and the realignment project to continue. And Tony Bean, the executive director of the airport, is here to answer any particular questions you have about the transaction.
Yeah, I think all of us are interested in the diagram that shows with the blue and the, I mean, the red square is obviously the space that needs to be there for the runway. To protect the runway approach, and then, but there's other blue outside. Is that just trading property? It seems like
blues, purples, yellows, and a trapezoid. Tony.
Okay, so we'll tackle one at a time.
Can we do colors first and then shapes?
We can do colors first and then shapes. Actually, in this case, we'll probably do the shape first because that's the one that matters with the FAA. So the shape that you see, the trapezoid, where you've got a shaded portion of it that is purple and a shaded portion that is blue. Blue is fee simple acquisition. So we are purchasing fee simple that property. The purple area, yes, sir.
Including the part of the blue that goes outside the trapezoid?
Including the part of the blue that goes outside the trapezoid.
And, if I may, including the part to the east of The trapezoid blue.
Correct.
Okay, so all of the blue is being purchased fee simple.
Fee simple, yes, sir.
Okay.
And the purple is what is known as an navigation easement. So we are purchasing the airspace rights of that property, and that is used with the FAA when you've got situations, in this case it's the golf course, where you can't really move one hole of a golf course. We studied it. It's not a very practical thing to do. And so how do you control their use of being able to put stuff in the airspace that would preclude us from keeping things in that area? And the reason for the trapezoid, what the trapezoid is called, is a runway protection zone. So you've seen that in the media activities and those kind of things. What the FAA required us to do at the beginning of our environmental assessment was do a memo on the runway protection zone and how to clear everything out of it. So the mandate from the FAA is to try to get everything out of that zone, if that's practicable to get out. And so we did that. The blue portion that you see that's fee simple, that's outside of the trapezoid and off to the east, is construction. So there's going to be earthwork either taken from there or put in there. And a lot of that, there's a big bowl on this side where you're looking at the darker shape here. That's a giant area that earthwork can be placed. So it's reserve area for earthwork, and then there's a bunch of obstruction type things where the earthwork is higher, the terrain's higher, and you got to bring it down. And so you're trying to be able to work all of the construction pieces in there with the runway protection zone requirements, and we're going to be going basically to the back of those buildings that you can see underneath with earthwork, because of the light lane and all that's got to go in there for the FAA.
So you are buying the light blue. It's not just a construction easement.
No, we're purchasing it fee simple.
Go ahead, and then I've got a couple of questions.
Sure. So what happened with the fee simple purchase, and where the FAA is concerned, they want as few restrictions on property as possible. You're expected to maintain it. You have to control it. How do you control something that you don't own? And placing everything into a navigation easement, you want to do that if you have to, but if fee simple is always the chosen path. It's the best path forward, enabled in your ability to control that property. So the last piece is the little area that you see that is between the blue areas. That is the SR 276 right-of-way that was purchased from Washington State Department of Transportation, and the piece in there that is in color is a transfer. So there is a piece of an orchard, it's called the World's Orchard, that Washington State University has placed in there, and it's a big map of the world, and they've got different trees where they come from, and they're propagating these trees. And they didn't want that disturbed. So in order for us to be able to construct the haul route to get equipment and materials up into the construction site, it was agreed that we would trade basically that portion for the portion that goes around it that you see in blue that's got the little rounded area. So we are trading this piece that they're going to retain.
The yellow?
Yep, for this piece that goes around. And so that was a workaround to try to work with, trying to get the haul route constructed before we had full acquisition of the property, and allow that particular improvement that the university had value in to remain where it is.
So, Tony, they're going to retain the yellow.
Mm-hmm.
And who owns above the yellow, north of the yellow, between the two blues?
That's already been purchased. That is
already,
airport.
that's
Mm-hmm.
already airport?
Yep.
Okay.
That is the state right-of-way.
Okay.
And that extends all the way up to the road.
It extends all the way up to Airport Road, and then it goes further than that, but the airport doesn't have interest in that. The county or the city of Pullman or the university may have interest past that, but one had to survive and one was not going to, because of where the road was going to be is in a safety area of the airport, and you can't have anything in the safety area. So the decision was made by the state to surplus that particular portion, and we bought the portion that is necessary for the project.
The buildings in the light blue area where you're purchasing
Mm-hmm.
the property will be demolished and go away?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
and what about the buildings in the purple?
so the buildings in the purple stay.
Okay, both down to the south and over toward the golf course.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those stay. They're not allowed to get bigger. They can stay. They're utilitarian. There's not people involved in them. The ones that are in the small triangle to the south, they house particular research for goats. And with that area, I think there's 9 buildings in there. We were affecting 2. So instead of tearing out all 9 and having a weird flag area out, it was determined, okay, because it's not people and persons on the ground, which is what the runway protection zone's for, is the protection of people and persons on the ground. You're not having people and persons. That was considered to be a permissible use in our discussions with the FAA. And then the buildings themselves, the change in the value, so the offer is land, buildings, and there are specialized improvements in those buildings that are specific to research. So they could be things like pressurized air systems for communicable disease with animal research, or it's a bio-level 3 hazard building, and it's a concrete structure, but it's not concrete, just concrete. There is a specific sealant that has to be placed into that. And so to try to figure out how to address the value of the buildings, because if you look at it just on its face, they look like metal structures, there's no big deal. But that's not really what they are, and that's not how they're constructed. They're very specific construction pieces for the university to be able to function very specific research out of. We had a third-party consultant go through and take each building basically apart and say, okay, this is the building shell, this is special improvements. What is the special improvements worth? And go through each successive building to try to figure out what that was, because you're buying the physical aspects of it. But in this case, it's not something like a auto parts store or a business that has an inventory where you can just put it in a truck and you can move it. It's quite a bit more specialized than that. There's a lot of complications trying to understand it, just what we were even looking at in a lot of cases.
So, Tony, a number of these structures there was controversy. They were owned by the USDA and not WSU, and they've reconciled that so that USDA has transferred ownership of those buildings to WSU, or they've signed a quitclaim deed to them, or
yeah. So what's happening with that is we were going to make an offer that was higher than the one that was accepted, based on the understanding that the university owned everything and USDA was a tenant. And the university went through and they were doing their own research and due diligence on their part, and they're looking at deed documents and research documents, and they find that 9 buildings are USDA's. Well, that injects a significant issue with the FAA, because now you're talking about Uniform Relocation Act, which addresses how the federal government purchases property with a sponsor, and then you're talking federal government to federal government, very different process. The federal government doesn't qualify as a Uniform Relocation Act recipient. And so we called with the FAA, the USDA, and said, okay, what do you own and what is in here? But you cannot take the specializations that the USDA has, and USDA has a provision that allows them to surplus those buildings and those improvements to the university. But they're surplusing them at a value of 0. And if it's surplus, the research components and those kinds of things, the value is 0. The federal government, in a sense, cannot pay for something that the public money's already paid for. So it doesn't work that way. But the title issues are being cleared up. The one thing that we're asking for is an additional hazardous material survey that wasn't. We did an initial one, but USDA transferring those, the FAA and the airport has asked the USDA to do a follow-on and make sure that hazardous materials are not present. And if they are, then it's the USDA's responsibility to take care of those.
So the FAA didn't want to buy buildings from their own government.
Right.
They can't.
And so USDA is transferring those to the WSU, and they're part of the purchase by the airport, but there's no money involved because they're already owned by the government anyway.
Correct. And that's
Kind of like that.
essentially it.
One last question, if I may, that I've got. Neither one of the resolutions, Gary, have any money in them.
No.
You speak to that.
That they don't have money in
They
them?
do not reference any money amount.
Are you talking about our resolution and that one of the city of Pullman?
Yes, those two.
I can't really speak to that, except I coordinated the resolution with the Pullman city attorney. The city of Pullman is not, well, they are purchasing on behalf of the airport the properties, but there's no money coming directly from the city of Pullman or from the city of Moscow, which is why it's not referenced. And at the time, until the Board of Regents accepted the offer that was made on Friday, that we did not know exactly what that amount would be.
So will these change by the time we get to council on Monday?
My understanding is that the Regents have accepted the offer, and we can certainly report on what that amount is.
And I'm not chasing what the amount is, I was just a little, you're doing a resolution about buying several $1 million worth of property, and it doesn't say that anywhere.
Yeah, and the purpose of the resolution is to fulfill our obligations to the airport board and to the city of Pullman under our agreement. So it's mostly a resolution authorizing the acquisition and transfer.
So
The
we're okay with it?
Exactly. The
Okay.
financials will be handled through the airport and through the city of Pullman as fiscal agent, as authorized by the FAA.
Okay.
Tony, I have one other question regarding the buildings that the USDA owns. Does the USDA have a long-term lease on that ground for those buildings? And if so, is that going to be transferred to some other location, or is that seems like that's a possible underlying complication to getting this thing to go through?
There is no ground interest.
Okay.
So
they have no long-term lease?
No, there is no lease interest. There's no ground interest. My understanding of the documentation that they had was the buildings were built for research purpose, and it was, the USDA is going to build X building on your property for no lease and to do this research, but at such time that the improvements are no longer needed or whatever, they stay property of the federal government until disposed of through whatever procedure the federal government chooses to use.
Okay.
I have a question.
Gina.
So, does the research that's going on in those buildings continue?
Okay, so how that's working out is there will be a year holdover period, so it'll be a lease, for lack of a better word, that allows USDA and WSU to transition out, and the other portion of the Regents meeting was to take the funds that are provided by the airport purchase and apply those to relocation areas that they would have in the Spillman Farm, and I can't remember the other one that's south of Pullman. Yeah, to move the Tukey Orchard and to move those things into additional areas.
Can I use this? Thank you. So there's no ability to, because it is in the protection zone, there's really no way that any other business could use it.
No.
Because those are really high-end research facilities. And I think, so, okay. So they just are going to sit fallow or sit
They'll probably
gone.
they'll probably be demolished.
Okay.
We'll be demoing them as things get moved out.
Too bad. Okay.
Is the demo cost on the airport?
Yes. It'll be with the FAA. It'll be a part of the project.
Right, so that'll be an additional cost that a number hadn't been announced yet.
Correct.
You're buying the land as is from WSU, giving them a year to get out, and whatever they leave is yours to clean up.
Well, we're cleaning. They're going to have to take the things that they have. But yeah, as far as demoing the buildings and capping everything,
They will take out the things they won't,
Right.
leave behind the things they don't, and it's up to the airport to get rid of the rest of it.
And we'll pursue that with the FAA.
But
So
the
you could possibly-
demolition was an anticipated cost of the
Right.
project.
It was. Right.
But you could possibly, once they evacuate their research materials from those buildings, you could use them for storage if you wanted. You wouldn't have to demo them as long as
Yeah,
there's not
there's
people.
certain things that can be used. It depends on the agreements with the FAA, where you're talking runway protection zone things. There are interim things that can be done, and nothing's long term. But if, for example, if we wanted to plant that and put it into agricultural use, we could do that. There's some things that can be done in the area, but it's pretty restrictive, which is the way it's supposed to be as per the FAA.
So the buildings are gone,
The
one way or
buildings
the other.
are going to be,
Okay.
yeah, mostly gone.
Get it.
Okay. Any further questions?
Consent or not, Gary? I don't care.
Well,
I would like to see it on the, I don't think we have very much on the regular agenda as it sits now, and I'd kind of like to see this in front of the whole council so they understand all the little pieces that we just asked about.
agree.
So that everybody can know which colors
Have the
do
same
what.
kind of fun we have?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd really like to see it, that kind of on TV
Certainly.
on the,
Yeah, I do too.
if that's okay with it. Nobody objects to that.
Get to come back, Tony.
That's not a problem.
He'd have been here anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tony.
Okay.
All right, with that, we have no further items on today's agenda, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
You got it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yep.
We're adjourned.